Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. This is the 65th part of What If Deku Had a Robot Wolf. I hope you enjoy. Link to the original story and author in the description. Chapter 65, Return to Japan plus off to camp. Barrow sighed as she walked through the dark streets of wherever the hell she was. She knew she was in Japan, yes. She just wasn't sure where in Japan. At least she managed to get a change of clothing. The clothing she was wearing she wasn't proud of. A black leather jacket that was missing its zipper, a black bra, leather shorts that felt far too short, and leather boots. She didn't like it, but it was all she could get her hands on. She didn't have any money, so had to beat up the members of some female gang and hope she could get some money off of them. Sadly, they weren't carrying any hard cash on them, and a credit card is useless without the PIN. So she just took their clothing and hoped some of it fit, leaving her looking like a goddamn hooker. Literally, she's already had like 10 guys trying to buy her time. She of course told them to piss off, because she wasn't going to sell her body like that. She had standards, and she wasn't going to sell herself, even if she was desperate for cash. The moment she got some money, she was going to get herself more appropriate clothing. The problem is, how was she going to get it? She looked down at her right arm, at the bandages that covered the stump. Without her right hand to draw her bow, she could not use it. She was, effectively, quirkless. A part of her felt like she should be happy about it. But then, why did she feel so empty without it? It was her quirk, her unique ability. No one else had an ability just like hers. She frowned. Her papa, the man who took her in. He put a lot of time into training her to use her bow. If she could no longer use her bow, then she couldn't use his training. She sighed. Now how was she supposed to avenge him? She couldn't kill Argonaut without her bow. She stopped, eyes widening in shock. His name. Why couldn't she remember Papa's name? He was the man who looked after her for over 20 years, who taught her how to use her bow. The man Argonaut killed. The man whom she swore to avenge. The man who was basically her father in all but blood. How could she not remember his name? How could she so easily forget it? Her good hand slowly moved up and brushed over the scars on her head. The shrapnel from the explosion that killed Papa. The same shrapnel that almost scrambled her brain. She would have suffered brain damage from it. Now that she thought about it, she couldn't remember anything about Papa. Tears started to fall from her eyes and she collapsed against a nearby wall. How could she forget everything about him? She spent more than 20 years being looked after by him. How could she forget him? His face, she couldn't even remember his face. Why couldn't she remember what he looked like? She cried. Argonaut had taken more than just Papa from her, but also her memories of him. He was going to die a painful death for this. You okay? A voice asked beside her, sounding concerned. Barrows looked up towards the voice, finding a young woman with a very curvy body and long shiny red hair that looked well cared for, standing nearby. She wore a pale purple blouse with frilled cuffs, its collar upturned. A short, navy blue dress with a low collar, a thick brown belt, dark red gloves, purple thigh-high socks, a pair of black boots with knee-high protrusions, and a black domino mask over her eyes. There was also a pearl string necklace around her neck, with a gemstone that looked vaguely familiar. It was pinkish-brown and was cut into an odd 9-point star. She also had a black choker with a small red circle in the middle around her neck. There was an emblem in the circle that also looked vaguely familiar. Leave me alone, Barrows replied, wiping the tears from her eyes. I don't need your help. Unless, you know where I can find a dreadnought? The woman smirked. You want to find a dreadnought? That's strange. Most people who know about them would prefer to hide from them, not seek one out. Barrow's eyes went wide with shock as she looked at the woman beside her. No way she was this lucky to run into someone who knew a dreadnought so quickly. Why, you know where I can find one? Perhaps, the woman replied with a shrug. I know of a place where I've seen one before. But I can't guarantee that there's one still there. It's been a while since I saw one there. Show me, Barrows demanded, taking a step towards her. She may have lost her eyes, she may have lost her papa's memories, and she may be unable to kill Argonaut, but she still needed answers to what happened to her eyes and who those 4 freaks were. The dreadnoughts sounded like they had the answers she needed, and this might be her only lead to find them. The woman smiled. "Follow me then," she said before she turned and walked down the street. Barrows following along behind. "It'll take a day or 2 to get to it. It's deep in the mountains and very far off. We'll need to take a train, and maybe steal a car." "I can live with that," Barrows said calmly as she followed her. "She's killed people before, what's a little carjacking?" "Great," the woman said. "So, what's your name?" "Just call me Barrows," Barrows replied with a huff. The woman smirked before she focused on the path ahead. "Call me Slice then." Barrows nodded as she kept pace with her. She did not know this Slice woman, yet something told her that she could trust her. So, trust her she will, because she needed answers, and the dreadnoughts hopefully had them. And if this woman has seen them as well, then all the better. The Expo was fun. After beating the ass of that British moron, Izumi and the others decided to watch the students of Millennium, Iscariot and Helsing have their tournament. It was fun to watch. Izumi got to see them use their quirks up close and see how well they had improved since the start of the year. She was also able to get to know Psycho a little better as well as see her quirk in action. It was so much easier to analyze a quirk when you see it work in person. May have also given her an existential crisis as well, but that comes with the territory. She really should stop doing that. They looked around the expo some more, brought some souvenirs and got a lot of autographs from the heroes there. She had gotten so many in fact that she was worried that she'd run out of space in the 5 notebooks she had brought with her. Her friends were rather surprised that she had been able to fill them up so quickly. Unfortunately, like all good things, their visit to Island had to come to an end, and they had to return to Japan the next day. Melissa had been there to wish them goodbye. And to remove the goggles she had made. She said that she was going to make a new pair for her. One that could be taken off. So that was nice and useful. But she will have to wait for that. Melissa sadly didn't have a license to produce support gear for foreign heroes yet, but she's working on it. So until then, she'd have to ask May to make a substitute. Anyway, one long flight later, they arrived back on Japanese soil. Japan. Home sweet home, Achiko gasped as they walked through customs. They had taken All Might's plane back, but Toshinori himself had remained behind. Something about helping David with a project. So it was just them, Inko and Eri. Their classmates were all on different planes. "I'm just glad to be back," Inko said. "I've never really liked traveling abroad." "Well, hopefully, we don't have to do this often," Izumi said. She knew her mother disliked flying and leaving Japan. It's one of the reasons why she didn't want to leave with Hisashi to the moon. But it was nice to see her getting out and about, having fun. It's been a long time since they've been able to just go out and have fun. "You do know that you can leave the country without me," Inko said. "As long as you're properly supervised, that is. Don't want you going off and picking a fight with the first villain you see." "Mom!" Izumi groaned. "I don't always get involved in villain attacks. It's not like I'm actively looking for them. I just keep being in the wrong place at the wrong time. If we had some sort of precognitive quirk, then we might be able to avoid situations," Durandal remarked. Annoyingly, he did not have access to Sir Nitai's quirk. Before he went missing, the man kept his distance from Durandal, so the robot was unable to copy his quirk. And now that he was missing, presumed dead, there was no way they could ask him for help in the matter. "That may not work," Achiko said. "Even if we knew it was coming, we'll still probably be caught off guard by it." Izumi nodded. "Probably," she said before they reached the longest part of any trip through an airport. The insufferable wait for their luggage. "Why does this take so long?" Izumi groaned. "This is also why I hate traveling abroad," Inko said with a sigh, holding Eri who had fallen asleep. "Why does this always take so long?" Izumi asked. You'd think in this day and age they would have found a faster way to sort luggage? Achiko nodded in agreement. Yeah, you would think that, would you? Guess there's only so much you can do to improve something. Also, if it's okay with you, I'll just go to the toilet real quick. That's okay, dear, Inko said with a smile. We'll look out for your luggage. Achiko nodded before she went off to the toilets. They weren't hard to find, there were signs pointing the way. They were a bit out of the way, but it was nothing she wasn't used to. Once she was finished, she left and headed back to the others. And accidentally bumped into someone as she was leaving the women's toilets. Oh, sorry. That's okay, a female voice that sounded foreign said. I wasn't exactly looking where I was going either. Achiko looked up at the woman she had bumped into. She was a curvy woman with bright blue eyes and blonde hair, wearing a form-fitting royal blue suit over a high-collared white dress shirt. The logo of the WHA on the suit's short sleeves. Achiko paused. There was an odd feeling or sensation coming from the woman, but she couldn't put her finger on what it was. Are you just going to stand there? The woman asked before a familiar voice shouted sister. Followed by the woman getting tackled from behind by a familiar red-haired girl. Rolls. The woman growled. What have I told you about sneaking up on me? Rolls peeked out from behind the older woman. Come now sis, shouldn't you be able to sense me coming? What are you even doing in Japan anyway? I'm working on a case, the woman replied with a sigh. There was what we believe to be a murder nearby. And no, you can't help me. Achiko gulped. There was a murder nearby. Hopefully, the heroes and police can find out who did it. Rolls pouted. Oh, and here I thought you liked me helping you out, she said before she noticed Achiko. Oh, hey Achiko. Didn't expect to see you here. Hi, Rolls, Achiko waved before pointing at the older woman. Who's she? Rolls smiled. Achiko. Meet my older sister Claire Phantom. Also known as the Atheon Pro Hero Clairvoyance. Claire, this is Achiko Uraraka. She's the friend I mentioned. Greetings, Achiko said nervously. Rolls did say she had an older sister who was also a hero. Wait, she's Rolls' sister. Does that mean Dash? Yes, I'm a telepath, Claire's voice spoke into Achiko's mind. My sister has told me about you, and your situation. All I can say is that I'm sorry you had to go through all that. Normally you wouldn't have been abandoned like that, but, even we aren't infallible. Achiko nodded. She still didn't have the whole telepathic communications thing sorted out, and she knew better than to talk to someone normally when they were speaking to her telepathically. Also, it explained why she couldn't sense her. She was probably hiding her presence. I advise you to be careful with your thoughts from now on. It's far too easy for you to project them, and you have no idea who would be listening in, Claire continued. Achiko nodded again. There was still so much she needed to learn, but it wasn't easy for her to learn. There was no one she could ask at UA who could help her. Apart from Eri, she was the only person like her at UA. There was no one else to teach her. And calls with Rolls can only do so much. And with the summer camp coming up, her training will hit a roadblock. Well, it's good to meet you, she said nervously. She had to say something since standing around just staring at each other looked suspicious. It's nice to meet you as well, Claire said. Now, whilst I would like to stay and chat, I have a case to solve, she said before she walked off. Sorry about her, Rolls said as her sister vanished around a corner. She's in work mode. She gets all serious and job-focused. But she's a lot better when she's not working. Right, Achiko said with a nod. Not what she expected from Rolls' older sister, but she did say that she was a hero, and some of them are a bit job-focused. Well, I'm surprised to see you again so soon. Yeah, small world isn't it, Rolls said, rubbing the back of her head. Didn't think we'd be arriving at the same airport at around the same time. But I guess it's because we both have summer camps to attend tomorrow. And we're with the wild, wild pussycats, would you believe it? Yeah, well, I hope you have fun, Achiko said. We don't know where our summer camp is yet, and we're not allowed to bring phones with us to the camp, so I won't be able to call you whilst we're there, she said. Which was a shame, as there was still so much she needed to know. If only there was a faster way to learn all of this stuff. Yeah. I wish I could help you more, but we aren't allowed to bring phones with us to the camp either, Rolls said. Guess with the recent attacks on UA, no one wants to take the risk of their students getting attacked as well. That's probably the case, Achiko said. Well, I'll talk to you later, she said as she waved at Rolls and headed back towards Izumi. Unknown to the gravity girl, however, someone was watching her. An armored figure with a skeletal metal hand watched as she walked back to her girlfriend. The figure turned and walked into the crowd, using the cover to vanish from sight. 7 down. 2 to go. Izumi slept like a log that night. She needed to. With the summer camp starting the next day, she needed to be well rested for it. She didn't know where the camp would be taking place, none of them did. She had thought that it would be with the wild pussycats, but they'd already announced that CI Academy would be attending their camp this year, and she didn't know of any other heroes who ran summer training camps. Hell, she didn't know the wild pussycats ran a summer camp until the press conference they had after they became teachers at UA. The rest of the Snuggle Squad slept like logs as well, so thankfully no one ended up in any compromising positions during the night. Except for Himiko and Sue, but since they started off in a compromising position, they didn't count. Sadly, Nijire could not join them for the first year summer camp, since she was a third year and they had their own training camp to attend. So, where do you think we'll be going to for the camp? Hanta asked as the entire class, plus Inko and Eri, left the dorm. I don't know, Rikito replied, scratching his chin. I would have thought they would have told us where we were going. They're not telling us for security reasons, Tenya explained. Due to our year being involved in several villain attacks, keeping the location of the summer camp a secret will help to prevent another attack on us. Yeah, that kind of makes sense, Hitoshi said. It feels like every time we've left UA someone from our class has been caught up in a villain attack. It'll be nice if we could just leave UA once and not get attacked by villains. It feels like someone put a curse on our class to suffer constant misfortune at the hands of villains, Fumikage remarked. Hear hear, ribbit, Sue agreed before her tongue shot out of her mouth, snagged a bee that was flying nearby, and ate it. I knew it. Denki shouted, pointing towards Sue. Sue croaked. What, I'm a frog. We eat bugs. My parents eat bugs, my siblings eat bugs, we are bug eaters, ribbit. Okay, so it's not enough to saturate our hunger, but they make for great snacks. Izumi nodded along, notebook in hand. This was very interesting information. I am seriously starting to wonder where she keeps those, Inesa remarked. Don't bother, not even I know where she keeps them, Durandal said as they approached the meetup point. Their sister class, 1B, was already there. As well as their homeroom teacher, as well as their own homeroom teacher and the homeroom teacher for 3A, Blossom. Ah, there's 1B, Izumi thought. Now, who are they again? Let's see. Tetsu, Katsuki Bakugo, Shoto Todoroki, Itsuka Kendo, Mashireo Ojiro, Poni Tsunatori, Ibarashi Izaki, Jirota Shishida, Harry Arin, Juzo Hananuki, Kazuye Tsuburaba, Sen Kabara, Shirhai Korwaro, Kanoko Komori, Mizo Shoji, Setsuna Tokage, Tagaru Kamakiri, Reiko Yanagi, Yosetsu Uwais, and Kami Utsushimi. I think that's everyone, she thought, listing down the names of the 20 students from their sister class. Alright, is that everyone? Shota asked loudly. All members of Class 1A are present, sir, Momo responded with a nod. Good, that just leaves 2, Shota said. Ah, right, Izumi almost forgot that Chiharu and Mei were coming along to the camp as well. Sorry we're late. Chiharu shouted as she, Mei and Isaac rushed over to them, carrying their stuff. Mei, is Isaac on aeroplane mode? Kana asked. Yep. Mei replied with a smile. Good, Kana said before addressing the rest of the 2 classes. Now, as you all know, we've had a bit of a villain problem this year. So, to try and avoid another villain attack, we're taking steps to avoid being tracked by them. That means no phones or electronic devices, Shota added. Anything that has Wi-Fi, internet, or can be controlled by a phone you will not be permitted to bring with you. As you have all already been told, but if any of you have brought anything that has not been authorized, you will be kicked out of the camp and sent home. Sir, Tenya said, raising his hand. Where are the buses? Aren't we using them to get to the campsite? Oh, those, Shota replied, glancing off to the side. We're not using them. What? Most of the gathered students gasped. But then, how are we supposed to get to the camp without them? Sue asked. That's a simple question, Kana replied before turning to Blossom. Blossom, you're up. Blossom nodded before a massive swarm of black cherry blossoms swarmed around them. Everyone let out gasps of surprise before they were fully enveloped by the cherry blossom. The swarm of cherry blossoms rapidly swarmed into the air, carrying the teachers and students off towards the campsite. Of course, this did not go unnoticed. From the nearby treeline, Yugat peeked out from behind a tree, an annoyed look on his face. He cursed, in French of course. This was not good. After the difficult operation that was planting trackers on all of the school buses, his hard work was all for naught. Because someone decided not to use them. Damn that Blossom. Why the hell do the heroes have a transportation quirk as well? It didn't matter, he failed. Without those trackers, the League will have no idea where the camp is taking place and will be unable to attack it. Looks like Tomura will have to get his revenge at a later date. It took the swarm of cherry blossoms about half an hour to reach the campsite, while the rest stop anyway. Safely depositing the 42 students and 2 teachers on the side of the road. Wow, that was a surprisingly comfortable ride, Tetsu remarked. Where the hell are we? Yosetsu asked, looking around. Izumi looked around as well. The first thing she noticed was that Blossom, Inko, Eri and their luggage were nowhere to be seen, and the swarm of cherry blossoms was flying off over a large forest. Why weren't they deposited here? She wondered. I smell a logical ruse, and remarked inside of her head. Izumi nodded before she looked around and observed their surroundings. If Eri and Inko weren't deposited here, then they must be heading off to the camp. Which means they were close to it. They were by the side of a road overlooking a massive forest, on the other side was a large cliff. So no clues as to where they were. And 2 buses with 40 girls wearing CI Academy uniforms standing outside of them. Wait, what? Izumi took a double take. What the hell were 40 students from CI Academy doing here? Wasn't this UA's summer camp? Why were they here? And she recognized 2 of them. Wow, this must really be a small world, Rolls remarked, a rather surprised look on her own and Psycho's faces. We really have to stop meeting up like this out of the blue, Psycho said with a sigh. Yeah, guess so, Izumi said, rubbing the back of her head. This was rather awkward. Looking over the CI students, Izumi noticed that they had been separated into 2 groups, probably their homeroom classes. CI2A and CI2B. Rolls and Psycho were in CI2A, their homeroom teacher standing behind them. Izumi recognized the woman as the armory hero Yoko. She was a tall woman with thigh-length straight red hair, golden yellow eyes, and had a slender, audacious form. She wore a light-striped shirt with white sleeves and puffed shoulders, a green tie, a red-brown pencil skirt, high heels, and had glasses over her eyes. The only reason she wasn't fangirling at seeing her was because of something else. The girls of CI2B, who were, well dash. Why are they all so big? Izumi thought, blushing heavily as she remarked on the size of the CI2B girls' bahonkas. Seriously, out of all 22B students, only 2 of them looked like they didn't have a pair of melons on their chest. And then there was who she assumed was their homeroom teacher, whose bust was just as big. She was a tall woman with purple hair tied into a ponytail, and red eyes covered by a pair of glasses. She wore a white dress shirt that revealed a lot of cleavage and part of a black camisole underneath it. tight black skirt with black stockings and black high heels. Izumi did not recognize her. She knew she was a hero, she just didn't know which hero she was. So she was probably an underground hero. Still, how the hell did they not have back issues? Yamako, Kana said with a smile. Been a while. Indeed it has, Kana, Yoko, or Yamako as Kana had called her, replied with a smile. Izumi blinked. So those two knew each other? Made sense when she thought about it, the two were known for being snipers, so there was a high probability that they were friends. So, is this a rest stop or what? Denki asked, looking around nervously. No, Shota replied. This is the campsite. For all 82 of you. Aloud what came from all 82 students. 80 hero course students, plus 2 dual course students, from 2 different schools sharing a single campsite. That was just a recipe for both disaster and chaos. Wait, if there were CI students here, then that would mean dash. Rock on with these sparkling gazes. Stingingly cute and cat-like. Wild pussycats. Mandalay and Pixie Bob sang as they performed their hero introduction, complete with hero poses. Their intern, Shuichi, was standing nearby. Izumi, of course, beamed at the sight of them. Despite seeing it at the UA Sports Festival, it was always cool to see the wild pussycats introduction. So wait, all 82 of us are staying at their headquarters? Achiko asked, looking surprised. I thought this was just going to be us? One of the CI2A students, a girl with long light brown hair and dark blue eyes, asked. It was, originally, Mandalay replied. We just agreed to host UA's first years as well at the last minute. Minoru gulped. I am not going to survive the next 2 weeks. Mandalay nodded. Yep. We've had bigger groups before, so this is nothing new, she said before she pointed at the mountain in the distance. Our headquarters is right at the base of that mountain over there. Izumi gulped. That was a long distance to cover, and they had to climb down to the forest below first. She suddenly looked down at the ground, noticing that they were standing on soil, whilst Pixie Bob was present. Fuck. The moment danger sense pinged, Izumi leapt onto Achiko, closed her eyes, and held onto the girlfriend for dear life. With good reason, as moments later the ground violently shifted beneath their feet, dragging the 80 students down the cliff and into the forest below. Foul. Of course, thanks to Achiko, she and Izumi were left floating over the devastation. Achiko leveled a glare towards Pixie Bob before floating down the cliff, holding Izumi tightly. I think someone hates you now, Shuichi remarked. Yeah, maybe I should have given Izumi a slight warning ahead of time, Pixie Bob said. Hound Dog did say that she had a fear of heights and falling. Will she be okay? Mandalay asked. Hopefully. She's got Achiko looking after her, Kana replied. I just hope she gets over it before she graduates. Fears like those can easily hold her back. What's wrong with her? The homeroom teacher for CI2B, Suzun, asked. We might be able to help her if we know she developed her fear. Let's just say she was involved in something that she's still recovering from, Kana replied with a frown. Can't say more due to how traumatic it is for her. We're working to help her get over that fear, but it's slow going. Hound Dog says that it's like something holding her back, but he's not sure what it is. It's going to be a long time before she's fully recovered, and has gotten over her fears. We're not going to be able to do much for her here. Well, as long as we don't have a repeat of this, she should be fine, Shota said, pointing at the landslide Pixie Bob had made. Pixie Bob sighed. Yeah, sorry about that. Should have checked UA student files more closely, she said as Mandalay walked over to the edge of the cliff. You have 3 hours to reach the camp. Mandalay shouted down at the students below. Kittens who don't get there by 12:30 don't get lunch. Shuichi looked down at his watch. So, how much of a head start do they have? About an hour and a half, Mandalay replied as she walked back over. Should give them plenty of time to run. Those kittens won't know what hit them. You know, I kinda feel sorry for them, Shuichi remarked. She won't hold back, you know. She's a hero, Kana said. When lives are on the line, we can't afford to hold back. The students need to be aware of that. But sending her after them, Shuichi gulped. Isn't that a bit overkill? Well, sometimes you have to beat the lesson into them, Suzune replied with a shrug. Her friend was always a bit punch-happy. Shuichi sighed. He was really glad he was an intern and not a hero course student because he did not want to face what those students were about to go up against. Hopefully, Mandalay and Pixie Bob will be distracted during the camp. God knows he needs some time off being seduced by them. Don't be too sure about that. Oh fuck me. Later. Shuichi promptly fainted. His prayers for help unanswered. Will his torment ever end? So, who's the cute lizard boy? Suzune asked. Apparently not. That will be it for this part. I hope everyone enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like and comment if you want part 66. If you want to hear more from me, subscribe. I hope to see you all in the next one.